It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Maine Blackbears head softball coach, Coach Jordan Fitzpatrick. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching?
Sure. So I have a passion for educating people and teaching people new things. And I think initially I wanted to go into teaching. Like as a little kid, that's always what I thought I wanted to be, was a teacher. And I did teach for a few years before I got into this. But I think I didn't really know as a little kid that like a coach could be a career, if that makes sense. I don't think it's like one of those things that your parents like encourage you to do necessarily. Parents are always like, oh, be a doctor, be a teacher, be a lawyer. But they kind of don't really talk about how this is an option. And so I think it was a little bit later in life when I realized that like coaching could be a career. Um, and I think it kind of tied in really well with my teaching background and my love for education. So as soon as I could, I started volunteering and helping out in different aspects in different sports too of coaching. So I mean, I coached basketball a little bit, high school basketball. I coached high school softball a little bit, and then I think as I like got into those roles, I realized like this could be a thing. Like this is something I could do for the rest of my life. So I guess that's kind of how it started.
What was it like going through the recruitment process and obviously committing to Maine?
So it was a little different for me. I was a walk-on, so I didn't have like the typical recruiting process that most kids have. I initially thought that I was going to go to a D3 school in Maine, and that's kind of where I had set my heart on. And then the more I got to know that school, the more I was like, maybe this isn't really for me. And so I was a little late to the process of recruiting, and I think sometimes too Maine just in general is a little bit behind in understanding all the rules and how like early on like you need to start that process. And so for me that was kind of, I was kind of a late bloomer, I guess, in that sense.
What was it like, obviously, when you got to Maine Blackbears and you got to put on that jersey? What was that feeling like of putting on the Maine Blackbears jersey?
It was awesome. I mean, being a Maine kid and then getting to come to the University of Maine was a very unique experience. I think a lot of times Maine is a small state, and I think sometimes it's easy to be like, I can't wait to get out of here. And I'm sure it's like that in other places too. But I think realizing that I was like kind of a homebody and I didn't really want to go that far away. Having the opportunity to play at a Division I level and in my home state and really like 30 minutes from where I grew up was incredible.
Of course, after your playing career at Maine, what was it like getting the opportunity to be the coach for Bangor High School?
That it was awesome. I loved my experience there. Don Stanhope was our head coach, and he really taught me a lot about the game and kind of how to go about teaching it to younger kids and younger girls. And I had a blast coaching with him and then some of our other volunteers. It was definitely an eye opener for me initially, I think, because I came from a Division I program, and it was very structured, and I kind of competed at a high level. And then going back to high school was a little bit of a shock because you don't realize like the difference in the caliber of play and the speed of the game. And so I think initially I was like, whoa, like I need to step back a little. Like this isn't what I'm used to. But it was so much fun. I loved it.
What was it like, obviously, after your high school softball coaching career? What was it like going back to your alma mater to be an assistant coach?
Again, that was an awesome experience for me. I knew Lynn Coutts from previously. She was actually my pitching coach when I was in high school. So I used to go down and do lessons with her, and I knew obviously Mike through that as well. And I was super grateful for the opportunity that they both gave me to come here. And again, I learned a ton from Mike and Lynn as well. I mean, she wasn't necessarily on the staff while I was here, but she was right down the hall, so I could go pick her brain when I needed to. But it's a cool experience, being someone from Maine and then having played at Maine. I mean, it's very unique. I don't think there's a lot of people that get to do things like that. And even in other states, I don't think there's a lot of people that get to come back and really give back to their program in that way. So
What was the transition like from you from obviously being a player to now going back to your alma mater to be a assistant coach?
it was different, but I will say that it definitely helped me in my coaching, I think, because I could relate to what they're going through. I mean, when I started coaching here, I was like 5 years out. So I had enough time kind of away where I didn't know necessarily all the players and that sort of thing, which was good. But I was still like pretty young, and I was very relatable, I think, in that sense. But I could remember a lot of stuff that I went through as a player, and kind of how I would have wanted to have been treated and that sort of stuff. So I think it helped me in that sense.
Of course, what were some of your accomplishments as an assistant coach for Maine?
Oh man. I think some of my biggest accomplishments were with our pitchers. I mean, we had the first year I was here, we actually had pitcher of the year, player of the year, and rookie of the year in our conference, which was pretty awesome. And then I think it was a couple years after that, we've had a couple of pitchers of the year, which has been great. We had Annie Kennedy was one of the pitchers that I worked with for a while, and she was ranked nationally for strikeouts for a little while. Or I think hers was actually amount of balls thrown in the game. Like she threw like very little, very little balls, which was great. So yeah, I mean, I think most of them have been with the pitching staff. I mean, the first year I was here in 2016, we won the America East Championship, which was a big deal for us. And we've been in the top, of our conference, over the years. So those are probably my biggest compliments.
How did it feel, obviously, this previous year to be promoted to head coach after being assistant coach for so long?
It was awesome. I think it was good timing. I think that, I had been here for a while, and I was kind of feeling a little bit comfortable, which probably sounds weird, but I just feel like I was kind of like, all right, like I know what I'm doing, I'm good. And I was kind of ready to take that next step and be pushed a little bit. And this has definitely been kind of outside of my comfort zone, but in a good way. I think I was ready to make that next jump and to start a new journey and to kind of take things a little bit more in my own hands. And so, yeah.
What was it like, obviously, getting promoted to obviously your alma mater as head coach versus going, let's say, to a different school and building a new program?
I have to say the support that I've had from the community and just random people throughout my life has been amazing. I mean, I had so many people reach out to me when they found out that I was taking this job, and people from like my middle school principal to other people that I had coached with to former teammates to just kind of, again, other random people in the community, teachers or just people that have been following Maine softball for a long time. I think that to me was just like, it was awesome. I mean, it was the coolest thing that I've ever experienced, because I think it just means it shows how much like the community really cares about our program, and kind of the impact that we've put out there. And so for me, that was probably the coolest part, was just seeing all the people kind of reach out, and knowing that I have that support around me is awesome.
Did you ever know, obviously, before this previous year that you would become a head coach at your alma mater? Was that ever an insight when you were going through the recruitment process and stuff?
Um, no, I don't think that was initially kind of my plan at all. Um, but I think as I became, as I worked here as the assistant longer and longer, that's definitely something that crossed my mind and something that I wanted to kind of pursue. I don't think I knew that it was going to be here, to be honest, but I'm very grateful and thankful that it's here. My family lives here, my in-laws live here, so for me, like, in order to do this job, I mean, it really takes a village, and I have 3 young kids, so I need to have my family around to be able to do this. So it's definitely helpful that I'm here, if that makes sense.
How did it feel, obviously, to become the head coach of your alma mater and still build upon the program that obviously you know from playing?
So I think for me, it's been a kind of an easy transition in that sense, where like the girls knew me going in, they knew kind of the culture that Mike and I were building, and although it's changing a little bit, it's not like a drastic thing. I think they also know that over the years I've built those relationships with them, and they know that what I'm doing is for the best for our program and for them, and um, so I think it's been kind of a relatively smooth transition in that sense.
What are some of the things that you have helped already built in the program as you took over?
Well, one of the biggest things we've been talking about is just being a little more competitive and having that aggressiveness in practice. That's one of the biggest things. I think sometimes in the past we were a little bit concerned about, liking each other and getting to know each other and, being happy. And I think that's good to an extent, but we also have to compete. And so we've been trying to make things a little harder, a little more difficult, giving them more competitions, giving them, more just stuff where they're feeling like they're being pushed out of their comfort zone, so that hopefully once we start playing, it'll seem easy.
What is the recruitment process like for prospective student athletes looking to play college softball?
So a lot of our student athletes send us videos, or they send us their schedule and we go watch them in the summertime. And then kind of once we pinpoint those kids, we do some more communicating with them. We talk a lot to their coaches. We talk a lot to any peers that we might know that are also in their program. Um, and then once we go from there, they usually, we schedule an official visit, and those they come up. We usually try to do it so that they all can come up together. So the class of 22, they're all coming together in November, so that they can get to know each other, but they can also get to know the team as well. And there's usually a lot of stuff going on the weekends that we choose. There's hockey games or football games or basketball games or something going on where they can all go and kind of hang out and see what it's like to be a student athlete here. So yeah.
What is the official visit like of getting to see them try on that Maine Blackbears blue jersey that obviously you played in?
So like I said, I kind of just touched on this, but they get to know the team a lot. So we do a lot of like team dinners or like a team breakfast, depending upon kind of the timing of when people get here. Um, and then they go to, like I said, a hockey game or a football game or a basketball game, some sort of athletic event where they can see some other student athletes. They get to hang out with our team for basically the entire weekend. A lot of times their parents come, but their parents are kind of doing their own thing. So they get to stay in the dorms. They get to kind of experience that type of life. Um, they have conversations and like, I don't know, I guess we kind of call them like exity type interviews with them, just on like what they need to do going forward and if we need any other paperwork or anything like that. Parents get to ask any questions that they've got. Usually there's a few things kind of lingering still. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
How does it feel, obviously, to know in this upcoming fall that you will become the head coach and obviously take the field as the head coach?
I think it was exciting. I think at first it was a little like stressful in the sense of there's a lot still to be done as the head coach. I mean, as the assistant and being part of a two-person staff, like I knew a lot of what Mike did previously, and kind of what his role was and what he had to do that maybe I didn't have to do. But I think there's still a lot of things that I didn't maybe know a whole lot about before I took over, administrative stuff that I was like, oh, that's me now, like, okay, or just things like that. But I think overall it was just very exciting to start a new journey and to find people to join my staff. And as stressful as that was, it was still like a good process to go through. So yeah.
What are some of your future plans with obviously the Maine Blackbears softball program?
I think our biggest plan is to, get back into the top of the conference again and get back to, winning America East and getting to a regional. I think that's definitely an attainable goal for our team. And I would love to see this group, especially who's been working so hard to get to that point. I also think, like I said, we're trying to build a culture where that's a little bit more competitive, a little bit more aggressive. Um, and I think part of that comes with just holding them to a little bit higher standards on a daily basis. I mean, we're pretty good academically, so I'd like to see that continue as well. We have, a lot of kids that do really well in the classroom and they want to succeed, there as well as on the softball field. So I think those are probably our biggest goals right now.
How has obviously being under Coach Coates helped you into become the head coach now?
Oh man. There are so many ways I think that he has helped me. Between just kind of teaching me the ins and outs of the game, kind of the behind the scenes stuff. I think the biggest thing that he's taught me is kind of how to develop those relationships with players, and to get them to feel comfortable, and to get them to really buy into what we're doing. And so I would say definitely the relationship piece and the personal side of things, I think is probably where the biggest change was for me. And like kind of the most that I took from him was in those situations, because I think that's something that he was really good at. He was really great at creating those relationships with kids, and getting to know them on a personal level and understanding them as a human being, and then being able to build upon that so that when they left here, they were really ready for the world.
What advice would you give prospective student athletes looking to play college softball?
Oh man. I would say just, play as much as you can, but also practice. I think sometimes like that gets left to the side. I think everybody's so worried about like how many games they can play in, and how many tournaments they can go to and that sort of thing, but they kind of forget to learn the game. So I think like really just making sure that in practice you're getting the most out of the reps that you're getting, and you're understanding what's going on. I think the other thing is like play a lot of different positions, because if you can play a lot of different positions, one, it makes you more valuable, but also it just teaches you to understand the game from so many different perspectives. So you have that, like, you have a better knowledge of what should happen and how things should go. And I mean, the best advice I ever got was just like to think like a coach. And I think that's kind of how I tell our players right now, like, what do you think I would do in this situation, or what would I want you to do in this situation? And so if you can analyze the game in that sense, then I think you have a much better idea of when you're in the game, kind of how to play and how things should go.
What advice would you give college coaches looking to get started into the industry, and especially being assistant coaches jumping to the head coach role?
I would just say like continue to talk to and reach out to as many people as possible. I mean, sports in general are kind of like a tight knit group. So it's kind of all about like who you know. And so if you can keep creating relationships with other coaches and other staffs and um, things like that, I think that's the best way to do it. And then, the other thing is like you can learn from everyone, like, high level or even people that are at maybe, you know, a D2 or a D3 school, like there's so many things that you can learn from anybody. So my advice is to just like keep your eyes open and, you know, listen and take in as much as you can, because I think that's the best way you can do it.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Maine Blackbears softball program?
Sure. So you can find most of our softball stuff is on goblackbears.com. We also have a Twitter page, a Facebook page, and an Instagram page. All those I think are Maine_softball. And then you can find me on all those as well. All three of those platforms. So yeah.
Thank you again, Coach Jordan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future in this upcoming season as you begin your new career as the head softball coach for Maine Blackbears.
Thank you very much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Jordan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.